Hello and welcome to the first video in my Part 4 Java MTA course. In this video we're going to be looking at all the logic that you need for the Java MTA course, and we're going to be focusing on the iteration and selection logic. In this video we're going to be looking at if statements. As always, first I'm going to give you the key points that you need to know for the exam, and then I'm going to give you some exam style questions for you to cement that information. So let's get started. So in this video we're going to be talking about if statements, and the if statement is the answer to the question of how Java makes a decision or a choice in its execution of the code. So we're going to first look at a flowchart. So as you know from previous videos, once it gets into a method, it starts executing the code line by line. And then with the if statement, what you'll have is a condition. And if the condition is true, it'll execute the code. If it's false, it'll do something else. So you'll have a flowchart that shows the flow of the code. But if we look at how that is represented in the actual code, you'll see it going line by line, and it hits that if statement. And we have a condition here. We're saying if number 1 is less than 10, we're going to do this code here. So if it is less than 10, if this is true, it executes that. Otherwise, it misses that and it just goes straight down and continues working on the rest of the code. Same here, we've got another one. In the first one, we're using integers. In the second one, we're focusing more on string. So we've got using the string method equals, which we've learned about in the previous videos. And again, it's the same principle. We have a condition there. If that condition is true, this is printed. So again, the if statement will execute the code block if the condition is true. You can add more choices or more conditions by using the else if. So the first one is always if, but you can use the else if here, and again you can add a second condition, and that will allow you to flow and execute another piece of code based on that condition. The last thing, the else, so you have to remember the else. This is, the else does not have a condition, so it's a little bit different, but this means if there are no other conditions, if all the other conditions are false, this code will be executed. So the else if can be used multiple times, so you can have actually multiple conditions with that. The if can only be used once at the start, and then the else is at the end, and this is for when all the other conditions are false. So we've covered the basics. Now I'm going to give you some questions to see if you can answer the MTA style questions on this topic. Okay, so what we have here, we have two pieces of code. The first one is a simple if-else statement. The second piece of code, we have an if-else statement, and then within that we have a secondary if statement, so we're using nested if statements. The logic is still the same, so it'll be interesting if you can pause the video and answer these questions. So hopefully you've paused the video. Let's go through them. So the first question is referring to the first bit of code. If the name value has a value of Fred, would the condition be true or false? Well, we're looking at the condition here, and because it would not match, we're saying the condition would be false. So that would be false, and so this one would be outputted. What would be outputted if the name equals Bob? Well, if the name equaled Bob, then this would be true, and then this one would be outputted. So that would be outputted if you changed the name variable to Bob. Number 3, what would be outputted? What is the output from the second section of code? Well, we've got our values here. Okay, so we've got values here. If we look here, we're looking at the text value first. Now the text value does not equals B, so we would not be going down that if statement. If we look at else if, it does equal A, so we'll be going into this if statement section. So we'd print out, our first line would be on 23, we'll be printing out 5. So the first one would be 5. And then we'll be looking at the variable number 1. So if we look at the first if condition, it's saying if it's less or equal to 5, which is not, so it wouldn't do this one. And then the second one, else if number 1 is greater than 15, which is, then it would print out 7. So it would go into this block of code and it would print out number 7. So the answer should be 57 or 57. If you wanted to output 1, 4, what would we have to change here? Well, if we wanted to put out a 1, 4, then what we would need is we'd need this one to equal B because we wanted to print 1. So text would have to be B. And then we want to put 4. So we can't have, we can't do less or equal to 5, and we can't do 15. So any number between 6 and 15. So if we have any number between 6 and 15, this should produce the answer of 1 and 4. So as long as you've got the first in text as B, and then in number 1, as long as it's between 6 and 15, that would be correct. So hopefully you've got a good basic idea of the if statement and the kind of questions you would expect to be able to answer in the exam. If you are able to answer this question, if you're able to tell me the difference between if, if, and else, then I think you've got a good understanding of the video and you can move on to the next one. If you are able to remember the brackets you need for the condition, that's great. And an extra, more challenging one, if you're able to explain why you use the string method rather than the double equals when you're comparing text, then leave a comment describing that answer below so you can help others learn a little bit more about Java. Again, if you found this video useful, please like, and if you want to be kept updated with my MTA videos, please subscribe, as I'm going to be making a number of mock exams for this MTA course. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.